Sorry. All right, good evening, everybody. Today is Tuesday, March 4th. It's the monthly meeting of the planning board. If everyone could stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
You knew it was coming.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and the first item on our agenda is a proposed special flood hazard district zoning bylaw and zoning map amendments, public hearing.
Town of Millis offers the planning board notice of public hearing. The Town of Millis Planning Board will hold a public hearing pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5, on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, at the Veterans Memorial Building, Room 229, 900 Main Street, Millis, Mass., at 7:30 p.m. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide interested parties with an opportunity to comment on article, proposed amendments to the Town of Millis zoning bylaw, Special Flood Hazard District regulations, Section 11, Special Flood Hazard District, and other appropriate bylaw sections. The purpose of this proposed amendment is to update the town's floodplain management regulations in accordance with the latest Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, flood insurance rate maps firms, and to enhance the resilience of the community against flooding hazards. The proposed amendments include, but are not limited to, changes in the delineation of flood zones, revised construction standards for new buildings and substantial improvements, and updated criteria for the management of floodplain development. And article, proposed amendments to the Town of Millis zoning map, dated March 9th, 1959, as most recently amended, by updating the zoning map to reflect the revised flood insurance rate maps firms, or to take any other action relative thereto. The complete text of the proposed amendments is on file with the Office of the Town Clerk at the Veterans Memorial Building, room 900 Main Street, Millis, Mass., and is available for inspection during regular business hours, and is also posted to the Planning Board's webpage. These articles may not be numbered, as they will ultimately appear in the warrant at town meeting. Richard Nichols, Chair.
All right, so the town, along with MAPC, has worked to update the flood maps due to the increase in weather events that we've had. So basically, we need to approve this and then send it to town meeting. So, go ahead.
You can tell council's here if they can sit at the front table in case
Oh.
there's any questions.
Perfect. I didn't realize it. Sorry. That. All right. Are there any questions from the board or comments? No.
I just have one. Will we get copies of the maps? I remember we used to get the copies. Would the state supply the floodplain maps? or-
The firms?
They're online.
They're on the website.
So they're on,
You can, yeah. I actually looked to see if my house was in
we used
the
to get
floodplain.
the full
Yeah.
set of them, remember?
We used to get a whole set. No, not anymore. Everything's on the computer, Jim.
Yeah.
All right, well, are there any questions from the audience? All right, well, with that being said, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and I make a motion to, what do we do, send this back to?
Nope, you are holding the public hearing to recommend the article as written
Okay.
for town meeting.
So I
Approval
should-
at town meeting.
So I'll make a motion to recommend this article as written for town meeting.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice to see you all.
Thanks for coming.
Sorry about that.
Next time I'll be here longer.
All right, nope, we're a little ahead of schedule. So we have to wait on that. All right, we could do the minutes. So let's do that. I make a motion that we approve the minutes from February 4th as written.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, What else?
Would you mind, while Mike's here, just asking Mike about the amending the zoning map for the FEMA floodplain? We can do that.
Oh, okay.
Mike,
Oh,
have
yeah.
you had a chance to look at updating the zoning map? Do you want to just?
Yeah. If you could just let the folks know who you are.
Mike Carter, GCG Associates. Camille had asked me to take a look at trying to update the zoning map for the new flood insurance locations. So the map is from a really old map that we've used for decades for the sewer map, and also it's a zoning map too, and it's not necessarily 100% accurate shape-wise and everything. So what I've been doing is playing around on my own to see, you have your GIS, which we have access to see if we can create a truly accurate map that just take the GIS files. The information is already there, except for the current flood insurance. Actually, I think some of it is there. And so you have a new map that's just current.
Accurate?
Accurate.
It's no fun.
Yeah, because we're adding, like, we just added Toll Brothers sub-project out there onto the map. We added
Acorn.
Acorn,
Yeah.
all of those on, and it's not to scale, whereas you have data already that's to scale. And I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I think I can do that very easily.
Okay.
And Mike, I might even have more. Kleinfelder has done extensive work with the mapping through,
Yep.
Jim has worked with them,
Yeah,
so we should look with them too. It's,
yes, okay. So we logged into,
Yeah, yeah.
your account,
yeah.
and it'll be accurate, let's put it that way. And it'll make it a lot easier going forward, that it'll actually it'll be there, let's put it that way.
Okay, good.
And would it be available before town meeting?
Yeah, we can do that, yeah.
All right, good. Well, thank you for that, appreciate it. All right, let's see, we have April and May scheduled.
I thought there'd be some discussion.
That's fine.
Okay.
We're gonna remember, we're gonna schedule things 2 minutes apart from now on, 2 minutes. So, anything new going on, Jim, in town that we don't know about?
I think Nicole can update, we had a fairly good couple of meetings on our subcommittee, and we need we're going to ask a request.
So as we, today's meeting for the zoning bylaw,
Speaking of the mic.
for the zoning bylaw review committee, after we met, it had been requested, could we get a Word document of the zoning bylaw so we could go in and redline it as we made understandings and approvals. That's not the word I want, I'm sorry. As we voted on changes, we wanted to redline it so we'd have it all in one document. So we went in to talk to Camille, she wasn't in at that moment, so Jim and I spoke with Jim from the IT, and he was explaining to us that everything that's scanned in with the bylaws, that any amendments, Camille has to do by hand. There is a software program that the town can obtain. He said it was like $7,000 to have been able to do either the zoning bylaws or the general bylaws, and it would be something else for the other booklet. There are grants that we can get, we can apply for, but those grants are upwards of, I think it's a minimum, he said, of $50,000. So that would be something, he said, if we were going to do something like that, he wouldn't want to see it piecemealed. You'd get the school documents. So anyways, we wanted to see if that's something that the planning board would want to talk more to him about, and then go forward to the select board and say, we are so outdated. We have maps that are, that are drawings from 16.
But it sounds like that's a multi department request. It wouldn't be the planning board saying, hey, we want to.
Well, I mean, the planning board could ask that we do it, just for the zoning bylaws, but I think if you're going to do that, it would be more beneficial to the town if we bring it to select board and they
So-
say, okay, let's,
Can Jim or whoever the company is that does it give us like real numbers and information on that? Because that would, I think if we had a document, it would make it a lot easier to,
yeah, I think we'd have to ask him that. But
Yeah.
if we I think he was looking for that if we went forward and said, okay,
Well, we'd be
we like
interested, I
got
think,
behind with him.
yeah, I think we'd be interested in doing it, but we need to know is
Yeah.
how much is it gonna cost? So,
So, Mr. Chair, the reason I think what Nicole's saying is accurate is, as we're going through, and we're finding that almost every page that something has to be changed, whether it says selectmen, it all needs to be changed to select board. We've found that there's double spaces, triple spaces, and the only way that this can be brought, as we mark it up in the book, you know, the 8 members of us, as we start marking up, we're changing sentences here and there, or adding a word, deleting a word. I don't know how that's going to, Camille's not going to be able to do that. And as Jim Donovan had explained to us, for somebody to take this and retype this whole book, the legality of it, because it all has to be still approved by the Attorney General. So a software system where they would take responsibility in the legality of everything that was put in the book. So for us to do this, I know he did it with the general bylaw, it was $7,000. And they would, and then whether it be Camille or whoever, after Camille or whoever, would always have it as a Word document and would have to pay the service. So I think it's something that, if we're going to start changing something like this book, with redlining and doing, we're wasting our time if we're not going to be able to change the book itself and come up with something nice and clean. So,
As I was, joking earlier,
there it is.
so this is page 2. This is what we reviewed today. These are the changes, every change, and there's 208 pages right now. If we're going through this with a fine-tooth comb and we're making all of these corrections, to then turn it over, number one, we're going to have to do it in sections because there's no way we're going to be able, would have a 24-hour town meeting to get all of this approved. But you can't turn this all over to Camille and have Camille start going page by page, in addition to everything her,
all right, so
Townsend
I'd
did.
say that's a good point, and I'd say, so the question is, I don't think we can just go and say, hey, can you write us a check for $7,000? So I think we should find out what we would need to do
We
to
can
do
get, Ellen will
Yeah.
prove it right now.
Yeah,
She's making most of the changes.
yeah. So, let's,
And just-
go ahead.
If I can just add one other thing, it's such an old Word document that the spacing, sometimes if you see a double
Right.
space, I can't control
No.
it. It's like, I just have to make the changes as best I can, so the spacing and some of the
Oh, yeah,
formatting,
no, we-
I have no control over
Not
either,
going to do
so
it, you at all. Right.
Yep.
just,
So, sounds good. Why don't we find
So-
out what it takes to go
Nicole and I
about it?
will come up with something
Yep.
by our next meeting and something that we would propose to the select board to, I don't care, it's not that I don't care about, but we're talking about this, right now it's a planning board. And that's what we're requesting. If they want to tag anything else or anybody else onto it, that's, so be it, but that's
they're
not
looking to do
our.
the general bylaws too, they're trying
Yeah.
to incorporate all of it.
Right, right.
If there's any comments from the audience, you got to step up and identify yourself.
And then we can get going.
I came in at the end, but Dan's whispering to me. Ellen Rosenfeld, 12 Evergreen Terrace. If you have a Word document, even if it's old, or even if you have it in PDF, I can convert it. Yes, you can.
He
No,
told
no,
us
no,
we
see,
could.
that's not what it is, though. What it was it's an old document that was prepped, that was scanned in, and so it was,
No, that's the subdivision rules and regs.
oh,
Go ahead.
because
Sorry.
because
The
Jim
zoning
Donovan
bylaw
told us
I
we
have
couldn't.
in Word. and
Okay.
That's what I go in to edit when I have to edit it.
Okay.
But when I go to have it printed at the printer.
Okay.
They turn it into a PDF, and then I have the thumb drive, and that's what I upload to the website
Okay.
and distribute.
But
So
you have
it
a
isn't-
Word document. You
Yes,
can-
that I maintain.
Okay, well, give it up.
Then we were mistaken. We were told different. So you have this in the Word
I
document?
have a Word document,
I'll then
yes.
go up to thank you.
Nicole and
That's
I
not what
already
we were told.
discussed it, I'm going to send it to her.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, send it to me, too.
Okay.
But it's still going to be,
All right, well, why don't we-
Okay.
we'll circle
We'll just
back.
talk
We're going to
about-
circle back to
We're
that.
back
So,
to-
we're going to, we killed 10 minutes. So anyhow, next. Next item on the agenda is special permit with site plan approval, public hearing for 1380 Main Street, proposed private dog park.
Town of Millis Office of the Planning Board notice of public hearing. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 48, Section 11, Mass General Law,
Usually
the
they-
planning board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March...
Well, I think they usually do it with
Okay, maybe you'll.
Sorry, go ahead.
No? If it's over there,
We can see
doesn't
it.
that camera get it?
I think so.
Okay. The planning board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, at 7:40 PM in the Veterans Memorial Building, room 229, 900 Main Street, Millis, on the application of David L. Lapdog LLC, 20 Putting Drive, Westwood, Mass. 02090, requesting a special permit for with site plan approval under Section 13C of the zoning bylaws of the town of Millis for redevelopment of existing structure to convert to a private dog park for property located at 1380 Main Street, map 21, parcel 17, Millis, Mass. A copy of the application and site plan is on file with the office of the town clerk and can be viewed at the town's webpage, the planning board's webpage. Any person interested or wishing to be heard in the application should appear at the time and place designated. Richard Nichols, Chair.
All right, so the applicant has put in the application for this thing. Actually, our consultant has reviewed it and sent them back a review letter, which had a bunch of different things, which they got a couple days ago. Do you want to go ahead and at least start off by presenting the proposed site improvements that you're going to do?
Yes, we would. Thank you very much. So good evening, members of the board. I'm Matthew Watsky. I'm here as counsel for the applicant. To my left is David Lapp, the future owner of the property and applicant. We have with us the engineers, so you have Jeff Kane of LEL Engineering, and Cliff Carlson, the PE on the project. You folks are already somewhat familiar with this proposed project. This is the very first private dog park application presented after the town approved at the fall town meeting the amendment to the definitions and to the approved uses by special permit, adding use number 43, private dog park. This application, I think, complies with all the different provisions of that section and of the special permit and site plan review standards. Jeff Kane's going to walk us through the way the site plan has been laid out and get into the details. And then, I'm happy to address particular legal issues as they come up, interpretation of the regulations, but I think I will look for the members of the board to pose questions of how something may comply, or questions of whether it will comply, as we can address, I think, really all of the issues that were raised in the peer review letter.
Okay, before you get started, so that's great. Sounds really good. There's some significant issues with the site that were brought up in the, and we're not just going to wave a magic wand and make them go away.
Understood.
So there's going to be the plans are going to have to be redone to make the adjustments. Just so you know, before we even start going down that road, because when initially I got him, I called and talked to Jim, and basically he said that, the comments that were made, meet the Mass Department standards. And so you can say anything you want. If it doesn't meet the regulations, we're not going to approve it. So you can go ahead and get started, but I'm setting the table, just so we're all clear.
Yeah, and
Go
I think
ahead.
we understand that. We knew we had to work through some issues with the town, and that's one of the reasons we didn't just reply to those comments by CGC and submit another set of drawings.
Right, so what we're going to be looking for is some input, feedback from you folks of what you view as the features of the site that need revision.
Okay,
And
why don't you go ahead and do your presentation, and then we'll have Mike stand up and he can walk through some of those things. Some of the things are cut and dry.
Yeah.
If it doesn't meet the regulations, we're not going to say, oh, that sounds great. If it doesn't meet the regulations, it doesn't. There's one item in there that I don't really care about, and I could talk to the board about, but, the rest of them, it's pretty cut and dry. So, anyhow, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, and there are two main issues that we're here to talk about. But anyway, I'm sure you're all familiar with the site. It's an 1.5-acre site consisting right now of an industrial building. Most of the site's been previously cleared and consists of asphalt, mix of broken asphalt and compacted gravel. On the right side of the site, there is a wetland, an intermittent stream, BVW associated with that wetland. The buffer zone for that wetland does fall on the site. On the left, talking to the east side of the property, there is a private right-of-way that traverses the site, 25 feet of which does fall on the subject parcel. Currently, the stormwater drains in a combination of the back, the right side of the parcel, including half of the roof, sheets off to that existing wetland. The left or east side of the parcel consisting of mostly asphalt, broken asphalt and gravel, and the front parking area currently drained down to a plastic pipe that discharges to a small detention/infiltration area that's located both on the town right-of-way and within this parcel. And that then discharges into the town's municipal system of 109. So I'm sure you're all kind of familiar with the site now. So our proposal to make this site safer, those using this new use, is to change some of this gravel area on the left side now to paved parking. Expand the parking area in the front to make it within minimum standards for access aisles, and to increase more parking onto the right side of the building. This will allow the site to get 43 parking spaces, which we believe will be suffice. Two of those spaces will...
Use the microphone.
Yeah, sorry, you can use the mic, yeah.
You can bring them.
Bring the mic with you. You can bring
Two of
the mic
those
with you.
spaces will be accessible spaces. Oh, now I feel like we're at a concert. So as mentioned, there is stormwater drainage now will be routed down to the front of the site, and we're proposing to put it through a series of BMPs, including French drains, area drains with deep sumps, discharging to sediment basins, and ultimately to an expanded infiltration area. Our proposal is to leave the one that's there now and just expand it only onto our property, and to allow infiltration to happen in this area within the site. I think I can show it here. We're also proposing to add lighting to the project. In the form of wall packs around the perimeter of the building. We'll also be adding some poles in the back of the site. Those will be LED full cutoff fixtures. We do have a lumens plan. That was one of the questions from CGC. We do already have that, and we'll get that in with the next set of drawings. Also, we have landscaping involved. We're proposing street trees. We're not proposing them in the areas where it's already wooded along 109. We're not proposing them within the infiltration basin itself. There will be an additional area here. This is called buffer enhancement. This is based on species from within the Mass Buffer Zone. This is going to be part of Concom's hopefully approval. But again, this is buffer enhancement due to the disturbance we're proposing within the 100-foot setback area to the BVW. The rear area of the site, kind of glazed over it before, but the area that's all exposed gravel now will be covered with an artificial turf. That artificial turf is specific for pets and dogs. It doesn't have a crumb rubber infill. It has a sand infill. It does allow water to infiltrate through that. There will be a stone choker course underneath that, so it will provide a storage and an infiltration of water. That has not been put into our calc. We didn't take credit for that, but that does happen inherently with that type of material. So we did have a chance to go over CGC's letter. GCG, I'm sorry. I did talk to Tom from your office for about an hour yesterday, and we did go over some of these comments. The two ones, I think most of them can be dealt with, but the two large ones are going to be the parking, how it works with the private right-of-way, and the proposed drainage. So starting with the drainage, our idea is with this redevelopment and basing on your stormwater regs is to provide a better situation than exists today. If you go out there now and see the amount of exposed gravel, there's a large sediment rush, so to speak, that will get into this basin and quickly overwhelm this area and get into the town system. So our idea is to meet the stormwater policy to the extent practical. We will be looking to remove 80% TSS. We will be increasing on-site infiltration. We will reduce the rate that's going off-site into the town system. We think those are all going to be benefits to, tying into your MS4 permit. The parking, right now we're proposing, again, this existing right-of-way.
You need the mic. Sorry.
The existing right-of-way, the idea was it might be an issue backing into it. I think that's what was mentioned. And I think Walter, you can speak on that a little bit more, but
Sure. So, but before I focus on the actual bylaw standards, I wanted Jeff to show you the pre-existing condition that's been there for decades in terms of
No,
parking.
and that's great. I understand that, we had a pre-existing condition. The problem being is they've changed the regulations. So what used to be okay isn't. So yeah, you are improving it, and we give you the credit for that. We have to meet the MS4 permit and the regulations for that. So to say, hey, we made it a little better is great. If it doesn't meet what we need to do,
Right now, we're just talking about the offset from the right-of-way for the parking spaces.
Okay.
well, I mean, if you
That's what
want, we can go back to the drainage, that's
drainage,
fine.
yeah.
So the drainage
If you
standards.
want to talk about the drains, we'll have to
Yeah.
talk about the drains.
So we have to meet, per the stormwater policy for a redevelopment project, we have to meet to the extent practical. And that's what we're proposing to do here. We're meeting almost all the regulations, all the requirements. The only one that we haven't met is the stormwater treatment volume. But that's one that can be relaxed based on the fact that it's a redevelopment project. So in our mind, we've met the redevelopment standard for this project. So the bigger issue we see is, obviously, part of this system exists on the town property. It has before, it currently does now. It's not functioning well, but it's there. And our concern is, with the scope of this project, we want to make sure we can get this in, we can improve the site, we can greatly improve the stormwater quality. But we would like to use that existing system that's there today, be it through easement or some other way to protect it now. GCG had mentioned there's a liability with the town. Well, that liability existed 20 years ago and exists today. So we're looking at a chance that we can address that now.
So-
Right. Now, Jim, you would-
Something that Jeff emphasized to me,
Okay.
if I may. So Jeff has emphasized to me that the design as presented isn't changing one cubic inch of the existing condition that's within the town's right-of-way.
Right.
So the added storage capacity and all of the TSS removal is happening on the private property.
Yeah, no, we
So
get
we're
that.
dealing with that as an existing condition. I'd like some guidance from you folks. I looked at the town's stormwater bylaw and stormwater regulations, and they're explicit that they're applicable only to a project that is altering in excess of 1 acre. This project is altering only 28,000 square feet. So we viewed that rule, although the town has that as a standard, it may use it for some guidance, I didn't view it as a rule that was applicable to this specific project. And so that left us with Jeff being guided by the DEP standards for stormwater management as the guidance for how do you design this so that you're trying to comply.
Okay, that's great. So I'd like, Mike, could you stand up and let us know? I'd like to, because that's why we paid the consultant to do it. I'd like to hear.
Understood. We're looking,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
an
no,
iterative
that's-
process. We're
Yep,
looking
yep,
for-
all good stuff.
So the big issue here is that there's an existing depression in the town's right-of-way in front of this building. And they want to expand it, and there's setback requirements for any kind of infiltration under the Mass Stormwater Handbook guidelines. And they don't meet that, first of all. You can't, they're working on the property line, they're working in the town's public right-of-way. Then you're going to be adding stormwater to this detention. It's actually, to get an easement, means it's got to go to town meeting and all that. And then you got to, there's setbacks that you have for these stormwater things from the property line. It might be 10 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet, depending on what the process is. They don't comply with that. So the max, they should be looking, to be honest with you, at their site only, containing the water on their site, in their site, meeting these setback requirements, not doing work in the town's right-of-way. If the town at some point wanted to put a, I said to Jim earlier today when I spoke to him, if they wanted to put a sidewalk down there, I'm not saying that's something under consideration. If this goes ahead, then you would have a stormwater basin that, in the municipal right-of-way, that is a depression right now. And also, it has to be maintained, and, who's going to maintain it? Now you have a private detention basin partially on town land, partially on private land. It should be kept separate. This is a private parcel. Stormwater should be on their parcel. And Tony Ma in my office spoke to you quite a bit yesterday. There's other methods to do it, and that's probably the biggest hitch with respect to the stormwater. They can do it, it just has to be done on their property. It might be more costly, but to do work in a public right-of-way, that would be that would require future agreements down the road is something that's extremely complicated, and I truly don't recommend it. And they don't meet the setbacks, first of all, so that kind of stops it dead in its tracks, to be honest with you.
Okay, so could we actually ask the engineer to comment on that, please?
Yeah. The stormwater regulations do mention a 10-foot setback, and that's not a functional setback. It's more of a protection to private property. If the two parties on either side of that property line do agree to reduce that setback, that can happen. It doesn't change how this basin functions. It's not a setback to a foundation, it's a property line setback only. So that's our response to that part. As far as the depression being on the property now, yes, it is. I mean, there's no way around that. It's there. We did have a discussion. Some of the ideas that were brought up by the consultant are quite expensive. That's all it is. The scale of this project wouldn't be able to accommodate the idea of putting in a, just roughly, so we looked at the numbers already, 100 by 30-foot stone-filled trench with either concrete or plastic chambers inside to attenuate the kind of water that we're looking at for a 100-year storm. It's just not, you can't cover it with this project. The scale of it's just not there. So that's why we're saying we are making this situation better. One of the first recommendations in your regulations for the stormwater was to make an existing situation and a redevelopment better. And that's what we're looking to do here, making it a lot better. But we're not making it perfect. We can't.
Jeff, is there any work actually proposed within the town's right-of-way for this project as it's presently presented?
No, the infiltration area will be expanded on the subject property. The area of volume of storage that's on the town right-of-way right now will remain proposed right now unchanged. The tie into the municipal system will still remain unchanged, but the actual work itself will be on the
So
subject
the
property.
peer review comment that I just heard was that it's concerned that they're going to be, that we would be doing work within the town right-of-way. If we were to eliminate any of the existing stormwater that's pooled on, that does exist within the town right-of-way, would eliminating it require work within the town right-of-way, basically placing
Yeah,
fill?
you'd have to obviously fill. and
So
do something,
eliminating the
but-
condition means we actually have to do work within the town right-of-way. Is there an increase in the amount of water that would be flowing there, or is it a decrease as compared to the existing condition?
Well, more water would end up getting there, but more would stay on site through infiltration, and less would leave the property now than does today.
So the peak
flow,
the
the
peak
peak flow.
CFS,
Yeah, will be reduced, on-site infiltration will be increased, TSS will be reduced by 80%. Again, all of these, as you know, are part of your stormwater regulations.
Can I just ask a question? So you're going from gravel, which is semi-permeable, permeable, and then you're going to asphalt, which is non-permeable. So you ran the calculations to confirm that your gate, okay.
Yes, and that's the increase in size of the basin, and it's the change where we're taking out about a foot of material there so we can make that infiltrate better now. Right now, all the soil tests show that it's a type A sandy soil, so it will take a lot of infiltration. The site that's there now infiltrates. I mean, we talk about a 10-foot setback. The existing one there now, based on those parent soils, is infiltrating as it is today, so that doesn't meet the regulation. So again, we're not looking to change, we're not looking to make it perfect, but we are looking to make it a lot better.
so just could you compare for us, I don't remember the numbers, the peak rate CFS discharge to the town's MS4 system in existing condition compared to the proposed?
You want me to remember that exact number?
I thought
It's
maybe
it's
thought
in
maybe
somewhere
you
around,
had-
honestly, for a 100-year storm, I think it was 5 leaving today and 3.5 leaving when it's done, something like that. I don't have.
So you're saying it's going to be reduced?
It's going to be reduced, yes.
I can't see how that happening when you're going from gravel to
It's because
asphalt.
because of the increase in the size of the basin and it's designed to
Yeah, I
infiltrate.
get
Yeah,
the,
I mean, the actual, this area, there's a lot of impervious here
Yeah.
now. There's already gravel there existing today. So this swath right here will be asphalt. This right here will be asphalt too, but again, there's some cleared areas as well. But this area here with the A soils and that type of infiltration, it does work.
Mr. Chair, all I know is, we've worked on many municipal projects that had the same type of situation, that, we've done a lot of building in Millis in the past several years, and each one of them, whether it was expense-wise or not, we did require, closed infiltration basins under Caltech systems, and we probably have more Caltech systems owned by the municipality than we do in business areas. The right-of-way, I still don't, you're not saying you're not going to disturb it. I still can't see how that flow is going to, going to slow down. I understand you're going to make it bigger, going back into the parking lot. Is that going to be, is you going to put any way to, keep cars with some sort of
The whole depth,
guardrail or something, or?
no, because the whole depth of that right now is about 2.5 feet. That's it. It's all flat out there. And the existing depression now is only about a foot deep.
I didn't look at the calculations of all that. I have to review that with Tony, and it's just,
Wait, the other question is, so on the the infiltration basin that, there was a concern that it was on the public property. So if they filled it, that would take that away. That would take that off the table.
right, and I guess that would be, I'd have to, again, talk to Mike and Tony about that. If they were eliminating the aspect of, I don't know how they're going to make it, going to stretch it out lengthwise on the private
Well,
property?
if we actually filled that in?
Yeah,
I know it was just mentioned, we never really looked at doing that, but you can see that area there would be compensated right and left, so to speak.
So, that would take that off the table.
Yeah.
That would be a solution. Like Jim said, I know the town, we've done a lot of stuff with the infiltrators. I'm doing a project right now. I just put in 40 chambers on the front, I'm gonna put 40 chambers in the back, and they
and this
were.
is a single-family house.
It's a single-family house. It's in
And,
Cambridge.
of course, everyone uses them now. The only thing I will say is they're a maintenance headache. No one really knows how you're going to, if you're using the ones with the TSS removal with the separator row, the idea is to use a jet vac truck to clean those out on occasion.
That's why we bought one. That's why the
That's what
town
I'm saying.
bought
Are you going to go do these other private properties?
No, we won't do private
they're
properties.
they're
We're doing
they're
our own.
oddball things to find them. When you have an infiltration basin that you can walk up and look at, well, you know if it needs to be maintained, and you can get someone to do that pretty readily, as opposed to finding a available jet vac truck. So I get the infiltrating chambers, but I think there's inherent problems with them too, especially if you're talking about ones that have 100-foot-long trenches. That's a lot of maintenance on those things. So
Okay.
the size and scale of this project, it's a lot easier to have something that you can see, you can vegetate around, you can make it look better, and walk right up to it and say, hey, look, that thing's all full of silt, we gotta get this done,
And again, I think that's what Mike brought up. If it's on town property, who's going to maintain it? Who's going to have the O&M plan that's going to be in place? Who's to say this owner's going to stay there forever? Who's to say that, somebody's going to, that's a lot of ifs.
Yeah, some of that can be conditioned,
And of course, it could be, yeah.
because then again, today that situation exists right now, who's maintaining it now?
Okay, that's a good point.
Yep.
And then the last question on that is, Mike, go ahead. Sorry.
It's more impervious.
Just one important point is, if the town ever needs to do anything with Route 109 and expand it 20, 30 years from now, and you have this restriction on there, that would prevent you from doing anything, or you would have to rebuild the pond itself. There's room on the property. I understand it's more costly to do underground. Maybe you can look at doing an infiltration basin and revising your parking scheme or something like that. Take that basin, slide it into your property, keep it off out of the town's right-of-way. But to allow it in your right-of-way could be an issue somewhere down the road.
So if we just going backwards on that, just like if they filled in, say they go to their property line and they
Yeah.
expanded it, that would take that off of the town right away.
Yep.
And if they prove the calculations that it worked, that would be one option.
Correct. They just have to go 10 feet from the right-of-way, and then they're underneath the parking lot. So it can be done. It's just, it's up to the engineer to design, whether it's open or closed. And, as Jim indicated, we did Clyde Brown, when we did that parking lot, say 20-plus years ago. There's an infiltration system in there that's huge. And I understand there's a cost, but I would certainly not recommend allowing the expansion of and that basin being on the town's right, within the town's right of way, right near the Route 109.
Okay, I hear. May I ask a question on that? So I heard that loud and clear. That under DEP's standards for stormwater management for redevelopment sites, which this is, you're only required to comply to the maximum extent practicable, and you have a whole line of DEP decisions that make clear that the definition of what you mean by maximum extent practicable takes into account the scale of the project, the total dollars that are being spent on the site improvements that are outside. And what Jeff has designed as a surface stormwater management facility is the cost-effective way to get it done. The full compliance, if it wasn't a redevelopment, would call for a 10-foot setback, but maximum extent practicable for redevelopment, that's a standard that doesn't absolutely apply. It's a question of what's the maximum extent practicable. Is it really practicable to spend an extra $100,000 or $150,000 to put underground catch galleys under the parking lot if you can deal with it on
Okay,
the
but
surface
let's-
and have the clean water?
Let's go to a different route. So great. So if in the area in the back, you have, what if you took some of the parking in the back and put some of the parking where the open grass area is? So then you could still do your surface thing, you could get your setback. Is there a possibility that you could do that?
And I'm
I
sorry.
want to make sure we understand what you're asking.
Yeah, so in the grass area in there, so if you said, hey, we have to get our setback in the front, and we're gonna take up some of that parking area, and we're gonna stuff some of the parking where the dogs were gonna run around in the back. Because if that's AstroTurf, you could put parking back there also. You still have access to that, correct?
So we're going to need a 24-foot wide access road to get in, access aisle to get into the parking. So we're going to lose more than just the parking there. We're going to lose parking here, and then we're going to try to make it up in an area that I think he's trying to use for, the daycare area. I think you're going to end up losing a lot of those spaces, a lot of this space to really, when you put 24 feet in, and then the 19, as we're proposing, width of the parking stalls, I mean, you're going to lose a lot of that space.
So, Mr. Chair, on this issue, I think we heard loud and clear. We heard from council, and I think it's time that I think we need to check with our council, because I'm not exactly sure if I totally agree with I understand the DEP regulation on costs and stuff like that, but we're still talking about something that's being built in the town right-of-way. So I think we need to talk to him about that.
So I was posing the question with the assumption that we would modify the design to eliminate the concern that you have about it being within the
Okay,
town
I didn't
right-of-way,
get that when
But
you-
then find a way to expand it on the private property, but keep it on the surface rather than going
But that
underground.
does mean we'd be looking to have a relaxing of that 10-foot setback. I mean, again, the stormwater policy calls that out, but I would, if
So
you're going to ask town
I think we
council-
need to check, we would need to
Yeah,
check that. So
absolutely.
that's fine. I mean, here's the thing, I mean, if we can make it work, that's great. We're not, it's just, we have to follow,
Of
yeah.
course,
Right.
as we went into the project, that was the biggest task we knew was going to come up. I mean, there's no way around it. The property line goes right through it, so.
Okay.
And then the parking issue.
Okay, so what is the parking issue you want us to address? Is that- okay.
Mike, you want to walk through that? Sorry. He explains it a lot better than I can. That's why he's a trained professional.
So this is a private way located here, and the question is, do they have rights to the private way? I'm sure they have some rights, but by putting the parking out in here, they're forcing themselves to back out into what could be a future developed road, and there's parking along here that's perpendicular and straight into the building, and that's the question. They're showing the property line to the center line of the right-of-way, not actually where the 40-foot layout is. It's 40 feet, right? Is it 40 feet? 50 feet, 50 feet.
So 50 feet and the property line is the center of it.
Right, and so we're just asking for documentation as to what this right-of-way is, and then from there, we can decide if that is a right that we think they have. And the important thing is, it's kind of, you think about if this, I don't know, there's other people back here who probably have rights to it. If they ever were to use those rights, they'd want to develop this as a road. And that's kind of that's where I'm going. I want to understand who has rights to this. I mean, if you two are the only two that have rights and no one back here has rights, then it's between you two. There's no future development of this road unless the person over here doesn't. The question is, do you want to allow them to back out into what could be a future road, a private road?
Okay, all right. So I look at these things, there's sort of the strict black and white legal response, and then there's the practical response. So the strict black and white legal response was that you have in your rule for off-street parking, a provision that says no portion of any parking area shall be permitted closer than 15 feet from a street right-of-way. And I was assuming that that's what he was referring to, is that if you're closer than 15 feet from the street right-of-way, then people are going to be backing up into it. That's fine, except that the word street is a defined term in the zoning bylaw, and this isn't a street. It's a private right-of-way, and the defined term street is a way which is dedicated or devoted to the public use by any lawful procedure and is publicly maintained as a public way for the operation of vehicular traffic. This isn't that.
Okay, so that's fine. So
So-
what you should do is,
so-
you should submit that, so in writing, so we can submit it back to town
We
council.
can provide you with that. Then I'll just turn to the practical matter. Yeah, it's a private way. The actual use of it, and that's, there are photographs that we provided going back some 20 or even 30 years, that there have been vehicles parked within this right-of-way by the proprietor of this
That
particular
far.
property for forever.
Right.
And so what's actually happening by designing it so that you have all of the vehicles laid out with the parking spaces up against the building and in that line, we're actually reducing the interference with the use of the right-of-way as compared to the way it's been used historically.
No, and that's fine. It's just going to Mike's thing is, you know, in the past, we know how it was used in the past. They had heating equipment. They were there for years, you know. So, you know, we actually used to rent from them. So I got it. The thing is, going forwards, we can't say, hey, they just put trucks anywhere, and going forwards, we have to make sure that we're meeting the requirements. So
Okay. So
if you can,
I'd be glad to provide a legal analysis
Yes.
of the rights to the private way. Like I say, we've run the title. There is a deeded right-of-way that this property has both the use, the benefit of, and subject to the right to pass and repass. And the way that's interpreted as a matter of law is that you can use it, you can back into it, you can't put structures into it, you can't block it.
no, and that's fine. So if you can
And-
provide
and
that.
so I'll provide that
And
analysis.
then the other thing was, like Mike said, is if you can provide the documentation that says, you know, that says that you have the right to it, that would be, I
Yep,
think
I'll do
that's.
that.
Any other thoughts from the board? Go ahead, George.
Is there any provision for snow storage?
Yeah, there's a couple.
There is?
It is showing us something. We have snow storage here, we have snow storage here, there's snow storage up in this area right here. Realistically, we probably don't have to list off here too, but yes, we do have it here. As far as anything that's in the dog area.
He's running down the hallway, you better get the microphone.
I was wondering, I was like, all of a sudden I went deaf.
So I'll start over. We have snow storage here in the front, we have snow storage here in the corner here, we have snow storage up between the new parking area and the dog off-leash area. We could had to lose a space up here at this edge here. We'll have room inside here to clear this dog area along the landscape strip as well. So there is provision for snow storage.
Did you have a dumpster there too? Because I assume. you have one.
Dumpster was here, we did get the comments, and
Yeah.
the dumpster on the new revision, you'll see, will be moved 5 feet off the building eve. We're proposing to strike that area as a no dumpster area, since this is an existing concrete pad we'd like to use for that dumpster. The dumpster size will we'll work with David to see what he really needs to make sure the dimensions work. If it has to be bigger, that concrete pad will extend out further, but we will put some type of striping that, you know, no dumpster, something like that.
Yeah,
So
usually we ask, that's one of the questions we ask.
How
Go
many
ahead.
parking spaces do you have?
43 with the 2 accessible spots.
Okay, and how many dogs do you, I guess, can you have at one time? Inside and outside?
It's a very large space. We anticipate somewhere around 30 dogs at a time for the daycare area, and we could probably do another 40 dogs for the park area. It all depends on the volume of business you can get. Space is not an issue, right? We have 8,000 square feet of open space inside and another when I was here, it was like 18,000 square feet outside. So
Okay, so how many people can you put inside the building at one time?
right now, we're anticipating we can have a maximum of about 200 people.
200 people at one time?
Yeah.
Question.
That's an estimate right now. We don't.
You figure...
Go ahead, yeah.
Can I go? The use of the building is done by your architect when they apply for the building permit. And the use of the building determines how many occupants you can have in that building.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you have those numbers from your architect or not, but that would be the maximum occupant load, would have to be calculated through Chapter 10 of the IBC, and that would be what would be submitted.
Right.
And so that would answer your question, how many people can legally be in there. And your parking spaces, to get to George's question, you say you have 43. How many parking spaces are there now? Are there any outlined or anything?
It's not really lined
None that
right
are
now.
lined.
No
And
parking spaces?
One of the things we showed in the picture is just kind of haphazard. They park kind of where they
Right.
wanted. And if you look, I'll bring the microphone down. I'm just used to the Zoom meetings where you didn't have to carry this. This is all Jersey barrier here, so this has all been blocked off. So the parking's just been haphazard in this whole area right there, so.
So with the new development of this site, you figure 43 parking spaces and 2 handicap accessible according to 521 CMR, the
Correct.
AAB regulations?
Correct.
Okay.
With a van width aisle between to serve both.
Do you anticipate a building permit application before July 1st or after July 1st?
That depends on the outcome of town council and the stormwater thing, I guess.
Well, the new energy code goes into its full effect July 1st. That would require 20% of the parking spaces to be electric vehicle. I didn't see them on the plan.
I think you can count on having a building permit application filed before then.
Just in case it doesn't, just want you to make you aware of that.
Appreciate it, thank you.
And the building official can mitigate that issue. So just wanted to make you aware that the energy code is going to require 20% of the parking spots to be electrical vehicle charging stations.
Just one more question. If you only have 43 parking spaces, where are 200 people coming from?
I don't anticipate actually filling it to that extent at any one time. So where we are with the actual capacity is not actually what's going to happen for the business. There's an excess there.
Okay.
Just to clarify, George, the parking spaces are calculated on the occupant load to the use and occupancy of the building. Once that's determined, then that'll be determined on how many parking spaces you're going to need.
Okay.
And that, if it doesn't get caught before the building permit application, the plan review will catch that.
All right, were there any other questions?
I just had one more, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Did you submit this to the fire department for any input from the fire chief?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
The fire chief and the police chief get a copy of the submittal to provide comments if they have any for the public hearing.
Yeah,
And
we
I
already-
didn't
Have
receive
they?
any.
Yeah.
They haven't
So
yet.
so they did get it, they just didn't
Didn't?
have
Okay.
anything to feedback. So, yeah, we try to make sure they get them. Camille does.
Thank you.
Any other comment from the board? Okay, so it looks like we're going to continue. Go
I do
ahead.
have one question. Regarding the parking, since you have 2 different uses, daycare and play area, I know that totals 70-plus dogs, but obviously the ones that are there for daycare, people are going to come in, pick up their dog or drop off their dog and leave. Are you going to, but if you have it the time when your play area is full, if you've got 40 dogs, presumably you've got 40 cars, give or take, a few people will have, multiple dogs. Are you going to have a designated parking area for daycare pickup and drop-offs? Or is it just going to be like first come, first serve?
At the moment, we have it as first come, first serve. My hope is that people that are coming to pick up their dogs will stay and have a beer or something. or when they drop off, they'll stop and have a cup of coffee. That's my hope. So it will be a flow in and out kind of scenario.
Thank you.
All right, are there any comments from, Mike, go ahead. You're gonna go to the mic. You're gonna go to the mic, Mike.
Maybe the applicant could just, he's asked for a waiver on parking size, stalls only being 18 feet versus 21 feet. Maybe you could just review that?
Yeah, sure.
Just so that everybody understands what he's...
Yeah, sure. One of the things we're trying to do is reduce impervious on the site. We're looking to, instead of go to the 21-foot, 9 by 21-foot stalls, we're actually looking to go 9 by 19. I know the detail does say 18, but we're going to go 9 by 19 spots. So that's something we would be looking for a waiver for. Literally, we're trying to keep out of the 50-foot no disturb next to the wetland. We're trying to keep out of that infiltration area in the front. We're trying to keep out of the right-of-way there. We just don't need the 21-foot spots. I mean, a typical F-150 is 19 feet, so we think that should suffice, and we'd be asking for a waiver for that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, we did attempt to change the zone bylaws to a smaller parking space sign, and the town voted it down.
They did. We don't necessarily, they voted it down because it was, became a hot political issue. However, reducing impervious is something that I don't mind doing, so I wouldn't mind myself. Plus, that's, most of those areas, especially the ones along the side, back up to basically gravel. So that'd be something the board would have to talk about, which we could do it next time, next go-around.
Chair?
Go ahead.
I believe when that came up, it wasn't voted down at town meeting so much because there was the decision, we didn't want to shorten parking spaces so much as we wanted to keep that as having an applicant come in, present it, and then seek a waiver for it.
Okay.
Every project standing on its own merit?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's, you can vote it down no matter what, so, yeah, so we can bring that about, when they come back, we can take a peek at that again, we can think about it. All right, well, is there any comment from the audience? All right, well, with that being said, I make a motion that we continue the public hearing until next meeting, at what time? April 8th.
You want to go 7:35?
At 7:35.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Just
Thank you.
Quick question,
Yep.
procedurally, how long before the meeting do you need to have material submitted to you if we provide you with?
Sooner the better, because then they can go back and
Is
forth.
there an absolute deadline?
Well, at least 2 weeks. Mike needs
It is
at
2
least
weeks.
2
Yeah,
weeks to
okay.
review it.
That's what we
Right,
should,
Mike?
Yeah.
okay, very good,
Yeah,
thank you.
and you guys have already interacted with each other, so you don't have to, you guys can go back and forth. It makes it a lot easier. All right, good. Well, thanks again. Appreciate it. Yep. All right. All right, next item on the agenda. Special permit with site plan approval, public hearing continued. 35 Main Street, demolition of existing commercial building and construction of new commercial building restaurant.
Town of Millis offers the planning board notice of public hearing. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 48, Section 11, Mass General Law, the planning board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, at 7:45 PM in the Veterans Memorial Building, Room 229, 900 Main Street, Millis, on the application of Nancy Cushman, Skippies on the River, 3 Hampton Road, Norfolk, Mass. 02056, requesting a special permit for with site plan approval under Section 13C of the zoning bylaws of the town of Millis for demolition of an existing commercial building and construction of a new commercial building restaurant in its place for property located at 35 Main Street, map 27, parcel 10, Millis, Mass. A copy of the application and site plan is on file in the office of the town clerk and can be viewed at the planning board's webpage. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the application should appear at the time and place designated. Richard Nichols, Chair.
All right, and just for the folks at home, this is the old Charles Restaurant, right across from Tresker Brothers. So, Dan, do you want to go ahead and...
Sure thing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dan Merrickin with Legacy Engineering here on behalf of the applicant. It's been a while since we were before you. We were working through all the comments that we had received from the other boards, and Mass DEP. And what we have provided to you for revision doesn't look a lot different than what we had given to you originally, just a lot of details were addressed. I'll just run through some of those quickly. The size and location of the building is pretty much the same. The parking hasn't changed. We have 19 parking spaces proposed. There's an existing standing sign here that doesn't meet the setback requirements, so we moved it back. We moved some of the walkways around to accommodate that. The ramp into the building is a little bit different than was originally proposed. We moved, based on comments from GCG, we relocated the dumpsters a little further back so that we could create a larger loading area on the side, which is where they currently or previously had loading area, so it's the same vicinity. It's not quite the 14 by 50, but it is just about there. There's just this little corner that's not available. We have to maintain a 20-foot wide fire road around the building. The majority of the changes were related to stormwater management. The other thing that we did here on the site layout is we added street trees along the frontage and some landscape plantings in different areas in front of the building. The major changes were stormwater management. There's an underground infiltration field. You can't see it under here because of the coloring, but it's an underground crushed stone bed that will receive roof runoff only. That was one of the peer review comments. They didn't want to mix surface runoff with roof runoff. That overflows down in this direction and into this depression. We had French drains here and here. They were converted to grass swales. And some minor modifications are made to the design of some of the pre-treatment devices. This is effectively a small infiltration basin. It's not called that. We have a site that's in a floodplain. We can't comply with the stormwater regulations to the fullest extent. So it's called a pre-treatment device, but basically it is going to collect runoff and allow it to infiltrate into the ground before it discharges out through a level spreader on this side. Those are the highlights. We're still in front of the other boards. So if you guys have any questions or comments that I can answer, I'm happy to do that. But then I think we'd like to request one more continuance. And if you'd like, I can start to draft a proposed decision for your consideration.
And I just don't, oh, you did one. Nope, never mind. Just going to ask that one. You had the lighting plan, but it looks like, which I'm
It's
just.
wall packs, it's full
Yeah,
cut-off
no,
wall
I know.
packs.
It's, well, Truscott Brothers lights it up like, it looks like you could read a paper outside without doing anything.
It's
so,
true,
yeah.
you're right. We do get some benefit from that. Yeah, we did add a lighting plan with wall packs on the building.
Yeah.
So we added that. We also, one of the things, just so you know, we added a detail for the foundation. This was kind of the thing that we were working with some of Mass DEP's comments, because the building does sit in the floodplain, so we're proposing to elevate the building.
And with the 6-foot gates that go through it.
Yeah, so we're elevating the building so that the first floor is above the floodplain, which it's not now. Some of the first floor framing is in the floodplain. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be providing large openings, flood openings in the concrete foundation wall. And we've sent that. That's a Mass DEP thing, so we've sent some information back to them. But we'll be in front of the Conservation Commission at their next meeting, which will be in a month, just before your next meeting, I think.
Yeah, and I looked, and so for the look of the buildings generally in, actually, if you'd show it to the folks at home.
Yep.
It looks-
Alex Sikorsky is here. He's the project architect, but you can see it has a very kind of a colonial vibe to it.
Yeah.
Which I know you guys like.
There you go. And the only other question was, you did have the outside patio in the end. So that's going to be, how close is that to the parking lot? Just out of curiosity.
That's just really a walking area. There's no plan for outside dining or anything.
Oh, okay, so you're not planning on that?
No, so this is the accessible parking space here, so there's an accessible ramp here that leads up into this area, and that's basically how you get to, they had a set of stairs, but now they're just going to do a ramp that leads to the front door. It also leads to the back door. But this is basically just becomes a walking area that people...
Okay, so it's not
And
a
there'd be
patio.
some planters on there. or
Yeah,
something
no,
like
I
that.
just, when I saw that, I thought, actually, it'd be a cool place to have like outside tables and things, but,
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to do that, we might come back to you for something like
Okay.
that, but that's not in the plan right now.
yeah, no, that's why I was asking, so. All right, well, I think everything looks good. Go ahead, Alan.
Mr. Chairman, how do we feel about kind of signage for the boat launch and maintaining the space to be open so no one parks in front of it?
Well, I think that was the applicant, now, let's see, how did.
So there are no parking spaces in front of the boat launch.
Yeah,
And the applicant is going to leave the boat launch open as long as it doesn't interfere with the operation of the restaurant.
Sure, but just because there's no spaces there doesn't mean someone might not park a car there.
Do you want a no parking sign?
Might be a good idea. Someone's trying to get their boat out and his car's parked in the way, in the unmarked parking spaces.
Okay, I can add a no parking sign.
Thank you.
okay, it's good, good point.
So Mike reviewed this too, right?
Yes, he gave us a letter, yeah.
Everything was...
Yeah, he actually, he answered all, he checked off all the boxes, I read it. Yep. That they had bolted down covers on some of
Yes.
the manhole covers, just so you know.
Yeah, well,
No, I read it, I just.
Yeah, the
was-
existing sewer pump chamber and grease trap already have bolted gasketed manhole covers, which is what you're supposed to do on a floodplain.
Right,
Right, I think Mike reviewed that when it was first installed.
I think so.
yep, so, all right, and so you were gonna ask for a continuance for the next thing, and if I, with the board's permission, do you think we want to have them, Dan, write up a decision for
I
us?
think with GCG's comments and everything worked out, I can't see why not.
Yeah, so I'm
I
good
don't
with
know
that.
if Mike and George and everybody else.
The Concom meeting is April 14th.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so I'll draft up a decision, I'll circulate it to you and to
GCG, so we can get that looked at ahead of time, that's fine. Do they have a name for the place yet? Is
They're
it
going to
be?
call it the Charles.
Oh, the Charles, cool, even better.
Even better.
All right, good, all right, well, good. All right, I make a motion to, let's say, I have to close the public hearing, make a motion to
No,
close.
no.
Continue
Continue
the
it.
public hearing, sorry, continue.
Second.
I'm getting tired. To April 8th at 7:40.
You know, he doesn't want them.
All right, motion's been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
April,
It's April 18th, right?
April 8th.
8th.
Oh, 8.
April 8th.
Next our meeting is April 8th. planning board.
All right. All right, so thank you, Dan. Next item on the agenda is special permit with site plan approval, public hearing, 725 Main Street, proposed cidery in existing building.
See you, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Town of Millis Office of the Planning Board Notice of Public Hearing. In accordance with the provisions of Chapter 48, Section 11, Mass General Law, the Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, at 7:50 PM in the Veterans Memorial Building, Room 229, 900 Main Street, Millis, on the application of Shannon Edgar Storm Along Cider, Inc., 12 Sewellbrook Lane, Sherburne, Mass. 01770, requesting a special permit for with site plan approval under Section 13C and 13S for a portion of the building to be used for a craft microbrewery distillery for property located at 725 Main Street, Millis, Mass. Map 24, Parcel 60, property owned by C&A Partners, LLC. A copy of the application is on file in the office of the town clerk and on the planning board's webpage. Any person interested or wishing to be heard in the application should appear at the time and place designated. Richard Nichols, Chair.
All right, so for the folks at home who don't know the location, it's the Inn and Hope Warehouse, right in the front, where it has the red and white facade with the little canopy over it.
Yep, it's the old Ann and Hope retail store. Good evening again, Dan Merricken with Legacy Engineering. I have with me tonight the applicant, Shannon Edgar, and also the project architect, Alex Sikorsky. We've submitted an application for a special permit for a cidery, Storm Along Cider. If you drink cider, you'll see them in all of our local liquor stores. They're a local cidery brewery. They are looking to basically build out the front portion of the Ann and Hope facility. Right? It's this area. Now, I've given you an updated architectural plan with a rendering. just a slightly updated site plan with this area is highlighted. So this is the space here. And it's the entire frontage of the building. And it extends in to the building, and then on the left side, it would be, there's a whole row of overhead loading doors here presently. So they're taking, I think, the first 3 of those as part of that. And if, we're not proposing any exterior site changes, except for facade improvements. There's no changes to site parking, there's no changes to site utilities. We're basically just working on the building itself. There's a couple of small equipment pads on the side here, but they're around the corner, down the side of the building. They're not going to be out in front. If you look at the architecturals, this is kind of a rendering. This is phase 1. Phase 2 would be for us to come back before you and seek an additional approval for an outside dining area in the front. That's not before you tonight. We're trying to keep this simple tonight because we would like to get the applicant in the building and operational on the production end of things. That's their priority, is to get in the building and start doing the production work. And then this work would come at a later date if you guys deemed it appropriate for the site. I just wanted to show it to you so that you would understand what the big concept was. They do plan to repaint the front facade of the building. This is an illustration of what they have in mind. It's certainly going to improve the building, I think. The building's pretty bland today, pretty plain. So all of the old Ann and Hope signage will go away, and there's an existing standing sign here, so there would be Stormalong added to that sign. That's got Ann and Hope on it, and the curtain center, and all the old stuff from the Ann and Hope shop on it presently. As far as the floor area is concerned, there's an existing overhead door in the front that they're keeping basically so they can bring big equipment in and out, tanks for their work in making the cider. There's the overhead doors on the left. As I said, there's 2 here that they're going to continue to use for bringing materials and products in and out. So this whole back part of the space would be for the cidery, for the production component of the cidery. That's where they make the cider. They're going to be making small quantities of wine, small quantities of beer, principally for the on-site tasting room, which is what they would like to build out in the front portion of the building here. So right in this front area would be a small tasting room. That's limited to 25% of the production area. So if you look at we've provided on the second page of this is your little table here, use schedule. It's about 16,000 odd square feet dedicated to production. The tasting area is 3,400 odd square feet. It's about 20% of the production area, so it meets that requirement. Then there's a small retail area here. It's not allowed to be more than 1,250 square feet, and it is 880 square feet, and that's where you could buy the products that they make, and there might be some associated merchandise that goes with it that you'd be able to buy there. So that's the application in principle. We have 291 parking spaces on site. The site's pre-existing non-conforming with respect to parking. But if you look at the parking requirements for this same space, for what it used to be, when it was the Ann and Hope retail store, the parking would have required 96 parking spaces. But when you look at this proposed use with the production and the tasting room, it's only 64 parking spaces. So it's less than the historical use of the space. And there's actually 66 parking spaces in the front. There's 2 rows in front, and then you have this row over here, this row here, and this row. Those add up to 66 parking spaces. So those, just in the immediate vicinity of the proposed use, there's ample parking for what they intend. And just to give you a flavor for it, the production operation, they're only anticipating having 5 to 7 employees. So it's not a very employee-intensive operation. It's going to be a pretty quiet operation, all things considered. So those are the highlights. Happy to take any questions.
So I had a couple questions.
Yeah.
So, the couple things. So the first thing is the existing moving company that's there. So I see, my question, yeah, right there.
There
So
and here.
right, so the question is, my concern is that if they, I think that the parking over in the area in front of where those trucks are should be restricted, so they can get the trucks in and out, because I think if you go over and point to the drawing, up, if you could go up, so, yep, so like right across from where the bay doors are, go up a little.
The bay doors are all in here.
Okay, yeah, so up in there, yes. So that would be my concern, is that I would worry that, you know, if those trucks go in and out, if they need space to get in and out, because the trucks are pretty big, maybe those get restricted?
These?
Yes.
Okay.
Just
No
a, just
employee
a,
parking?
just a thought, or something like that, you know, I mean, I'd worry about the trucks getting in and out, you know, what we don't want to do is have it where, you know, there's, all of a sudden, there's all sorts of cars there, the trucks can't get in and out, it becomes a problem from the get-go, so that'd be one. The mural on the front is really cool, but I would consider that a sign, and that is, that's like, we made the gym
The gym, yeah.
paint over that, so that's basically a gigantic sign. I mean,
So no artwork could be
well,
considered?
the question is, and that would go to the question, we'd have to look at the, I mean, I don't know, but a mural's one thing, but the minute that it had the Stormalong on it, it becomes a sign.
Well, so yeah, the Stormalong, and I had a long discussion with the applicant about this. So the Stormalong sign here meets the 45 square feet. So
Right.
the question is would they be allowed to paint artwork on the front facade for the rest of the building? They would like to. They think it would be a nice improvement to the building.
No, I mean, like I said, I'm not, I got it, it's something different, so, you know,
Yep.
this is Millis, this is, you know, it's I think it's fun. I would say the question is, well, as soon as I see that Stormalong, I think that that's a 100-foot-long sign. If you said artwork, then that's a different story, and I don't know, I don't think we have any specific restrictions on artwork.
We had that issue with the exercise place.
Gym, yeah.
right,
Yeah, but they painted a giant sign that said, you know, Fred's Gym or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we'd have to look at the sign bylaw and get a determination on that, to see if that would, under the definition, be called a sign or what. But before we act on it, you probably have to look at the definition.
Yeah, we'd have to check that. I mean, like I said, you know, something different, something cool.
Yep.
It just, you know, like I said, the minute I see the Stormalong, it makes, you know, that's the thing that raises the thing of, you know, somebody could say, hey, they just put up a 100-foot-long sign. And then the captain smoking the pipe, I think he's the Stormalong mascot, if I'm correct.
He's on Canard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that could be, you know, somebody could say, hey, listen, you know, how come they have their, you know, they have Mr. Crackerjack up there?
Right.
And they're not, you know, so it's a Crackerjack factory.
All right.
And
Well,
you know what I'm saying? I just got to be a little careful on being fair to everybody.
Yep,
That's what would be
I
my
understand
take
that.
on it.
And I don't, again, as we want to, with this initial application, we want to kind of get them going on production. So if this becomes something that gets complicated,
And do it later.
this can come with the second application, which we intend to follow in short order.
Okay.
file in short
No,
order.
and that's fine. Like I said, I'm not trying to throw up clouds. I'm just
No.
bringing up concerns that I know.
Clouds, there's clouds.
I'm bringing up concerns that I know people are gonna, you know, mention.
It sounds like Dan already brought it up to the applicant,
Yeah.
so they already know about it. So-
And the only other question is going back to the sign. So I know the existing sign was pre-existing non-conforming, but I think does that meet the sign size, Dan, the blue one, that's standalone?
I will check on the
Okay.
size of that.
Yeah, because, you know, I mean, even though it's, if you take it and you make it your own, then it has to be the right size. And technically, it's not supposed to be backlit, you know, our
Yep.
regulations on that, so, because we can't ask other people to do it and then let somebody else do it. And then, so any of the alcohol stuff goes to the select board, that's nothing to do with us.
Yeah, and the applicant can explain it better to you, but there's a farmer's license
Yeah,
for liquor.
But it's not the-
distilling for beer, it's not with the planning board yet.
Right, so that's, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, not fermenting, what do you call it? No, it's not distilling. What do you call your process?
Like cider making, wine making?
Shannon, why don't you go up there, sit there?
If you could just let the folks know who you are.
I'm Shannon Edgar, founder of Stormalong Cider.
Great, this would be a great addition to the town. The processing of the apples is done on site?
No, we use a juice processor that's close by. So, I mean, we will have a tiny press there, you know, to do some really small scale stuff, but we'll be receiving tankers of freshly pressed apple cider.
So will there be a sulfur odor?
No, it's minimal. I mean, we don't have issues with that where we are right now, you know, or where we have been fermenting, you know, because Ben can speak to it. He's one of our head cider makers.
Hi, guys.
This is Ben.
Hi, I'm Ben. I've been working with Stormalong for 9 years, and so I'd love to answer any questions you have. In both cider and wine fermentation, sulfur odors are possible if the juice is not properly nutriated with, essentially it's like yeast powder. And if you don't nutriate properly, and if you get sulfur odors that might bother the community, you will absolutely ruin the cider, tens of thousands of dollars worth of cider. So we very carefully control sulfur to the point that none of it's coming out of the tank. We also use low sulfur yeasts for that purpose. It can be an issue, but it's at least as big of an issue for our consumers as anyone else. So
And just one question, since you brought up the tanker question.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of going back to the parking thing. So I assume you, Dan, you've gone accommodations for the tanker?
Yeah, basically, this whole side is an existing paved
Oh, okay, so it's
driving
over
area.
there.
So there's going to be a fill
Mhm.
back here, so that the truck would come in here, and then there would just be an exterior fill, and it's not even pumped into the building. There's a suction pump in the building that sucks it out of it.
So it's nowhere near the parking lot?
No.
Okay, that was the question, so.
No, and it's, I mean, even in the busiest times, you're talking like 1, maybe 2 a week max.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just, you know, if you said you're going to have, you know, 10 coming in, you know,
No,
that might be.
we're not
if you have-
Coca-Cola or
Yeah,
Pepsi.
one or two we're not worried about, so that's all good.
Hoping.
Go ahead.
The only question I have would be, if you don't put that name Stormalong on the front, like, you should be able to paint it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think it would be nice to do something with the front of that building. It's kind of not nice right now. So maybe we can frame the Stormalong, you know, in some way, so that's clearly the wall sign. And then we'd have to, I think you guys would have to decide if the rest of what they're proposing, I understand what you're saying about the captain. And I've actually told them that already.
Yeah.
So if you guys are comfortable with the rest of the wall art as not being signage, then that'd be great. But again, I don't really want to bog this process down with that. If we can avoid it, you know, we're going to be filing another application with you soon, and we can explore that in greater detail.
Yeah, and I just, on the mural tip, like this, what we proposed was to give you guys like an idea of what we might do, you know. Our muralist is also our designer, and he's done stuff all over Somerville. I mean, he gets hired to do jobs throughout Cambridge, Somerville, and he's done stuff for like Night Shift Brewing and a lot of other operations that kind of have dealt with, you know, code and things like that. So we would want to do something that would, you know.
No, I think it's fun. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. We didn't have it in Millis, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, we got to be careful to be, you know, we had some issues on some signage that we made somebody go backwards. We don't want to go ahead and
Sure.
then, you know,
Was
say,
that the
well,
gym in this building?
Which, I'm sorry, which one?
Was that the gym in this building, the one you're talking about?
No.
Where they painted a sign?
No, they had the Mega Gym. Mega Gym had the gigantic, the letters
It's
were
part of
like.
that building, yeah.
It's part of this building.
Yeah,
It's-
part of that
Yeah.
building, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right here.
I thought you were saying
Yeah,
this
yeah,
building.
yeah.
We made them paint the whole
They
thing.
painted the big.
Yeah,
the big thing.
it was like 14 feet tall.
Right. I
Which was a
remember
great sign, but.
And then I
you know.
remember it got painted over.
Mr. Chairman, back then when that happened, it was, the definition was brought up for a sign in business is a sign used to direct attention to a service, comma, product sold, comma, or other activity performed on the same premises upon which the sign is located. So, you know, in the town of Millis, we have a lot of sign issues. I know I did when I was here for 21 years. And but I wouldn't want to see you do that whole thing and then start getting complaints, and then start getting into, you know, the legality of a definition. So I would probably just bring that to your attention right up front.
Yeah, we would submit, we would want blessings and approvals on
Yeah.
everything. It just, I think there's an opportunity for an artistic, you know, we can even get into some of the history here, you know, of kind of like letting people know what, you know, the town's about. And
Bringing
cider
beverage
making used to be made in the
manufacturing
building, so
Yeah.
it'd be
Yeah,
kind
we
of cool.
We can look at
Formally
that
go.
as zoning to see if we can come up with allowing that,
Yeah,
too.
we could take a look at it. Like I said,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it. I'd say you know, the sign thing and Captain Jack out, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
You know, maybe that might be, you know, something that's, you know, then it's just art. That's a different story, so,
Definitely willing to make
yeah,
changes.
okay.
So along with the cider, is it any food going to be there, or is that?
The tasting room will have food, yes. So there'd be
Is it going to
a,
be made on site, or is it?
yeah, there'd be a kitchen, and that's in what I just handed you, shows you the small tasting room here, and then this is the kitchen area, back of
So like
house. kitchen
pizzas
area.
and?
No, so we have, right now, we have a chef that we've been working with. The hope is for us to do a wood-fired grill in there. You know, we're looking at food that pairs well with cider. So, you know, it'd be small plates as well as some entrees, but, you know, the chef we've been working with is a guy named Dan Bazzanotti. He opened Italy in Boston, if you know that, Italy, and, you know, he's done Blue Ribbon, sushi, and brasserie in downtown. So he's who's been we consulting with, really, you know, great guy and great chef. And so I think we want to do something really nice in there. We're going to do it.
I can tell you everything goes with cider.
That's good, it's just good information for people.
Yeah.
to
Sure,
know that it's
sure,
gonna
yeah,
be-
sure.
Okay, so, Dan, so did you want, what was your thought process on this?
Well, two things, I think we need to answer one question first, which is, there really aren't any substantive exterior site changes. So we did request a site plan waiver if you thought that was appropriate. You know, it's an old site, it's got lots of nonconformities. We're not changing anything outside that affects any of that.
The only thing I bring up to the board is just my concern on the, the moving company area. Would you consider just something over that would be the only,
Yeah, I mean, you can, as part of your special permit,
could make a note?
you can make conditions, of
Conditions,
course,
yeah.
that are binding.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
and I got it. I'm just saying, you know,
The
I
site
think.
plan review component of it, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, and that doesn't bother me at all. I would say, have you consulted with the other, with the moving guy? I saw all the rider trucks out there, so.
I haven't.
We talk to him almost every day, so if he told me anything that,
Okay.
okay, that's
Yeah.
no way, I would
All right.
fix it for
Yeah.
him immediately.
It also,
Okay.
I mean, we're cordial with them, and, you know, so it hasn't been any issues that we see.
And
Alrighty.
we will be coming back with another application where there will be some site changes, so that's,
Okay.
you know, that we certainly, at that point, could make any adjustments that anybody thought needed to be made.
Okay, like I said, I just don't want to get into the thing where we get it all set up and then find out, you know, hey, you know, they're getting calls because the rider trucks are, you know, couldn't get in or out or
Yeah.
left or right, so.
I mean, my suggestion, I think, would be to continue this to the April meeting, and I could draft a decision for you to consider.
All right, does that sound good to the board? All right, sounds good.
Anyone from the
Just have to
public?
make a motion to approve the waiver.
Yep, I make a motion to approve.
Anybody out
Oh,
in the
go
public?
ahead, I'm sorry. Yes, was there a comment from the audience? No?
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought someone, Dan was pointing back there, so.
Just wanted to be sure.
He confused me. You
The
did
only
that on
comment that
purpose.
I'd like to make for the public is that, to the owners of the property, we're very happy that you put the CL back on Clico. That's a big deal. You don't know how much of a big deal that is. How many people have made comments about that already?
Rusty Chapman said he had
Verizon did it.
Yeah, Verizon. Yeah.
I heard Rusty Cushman had Verizon put it back on.
Yeah, Rusty told me.
And you had Verizon. Yeah, I knew that was the. So again, thank you, and tell the owners that it's a bigger deal than you think it is.
I will.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so I make a motion to, what am I making a motion to? Approve the waiver of site plan review, yes.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we took care of that, and then I make a motion to continue the public hearing till April 8th at 7:45. 7:45.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, well, great, thanks, guys.
Thank you for your time.
We'll keep it for the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll hold on to it for the next one. All right. All right, next item on the agenda is special permit with site plan approval, public hearing continued for 140 Dover Road. Wait a minute. Okay. All right, actually, just, hey, folks, can we get you guys to, we're continuing our hearing, if you could get, yeah, thanks, guys.
Town of Millis Office of the Planning Board, notice of public hearing. In accordance with provisions of Chapter 40A, Section 11, Mass General Law, the Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, at 7:55 PM in Veterans Memorial Building, Room 229, 900 Main Street, Millis, on the application of Dimitri Tsipadis, Dover Road Solar LLC, 401 Edgewater Place, Suite 570, Wakefield, Mass. 01880, requesting a special permit for site plan approval under Section 21, large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation, and Section 13C of the zoning bylaws of the Town of Millis for installation of a 498-kilowatt AC ground-mounted solar array on property located at 140 Dover Road, Millis, Mass. Assessors map 53, Lot 6, property owned by BASF Corporation. A copy of the application and site plan is on file in the office of the town clerk and on the planning board's webpage. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the application should appear at the time and place designated. Richard Nichols, Chair.
All right, so this application has been requested to be withdrawn without prejudice by the applicant. So I make a motion that we withdraw the we approve the withdrawal of the application without prejudice.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And then last item. Oh, I can close the public hearing. Oh, and so I make a motion to close the public hearing for 140 Dover Road.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Good, we don't have to go through that one again. The other business is the ADU bylaw. So we need to send that back to the select board for public hearing.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
In conversations with our current building commissioner, he had raised the question, the proposed bylaw from town council deletes the definition accessory family unit and deletes that section, deletes that portion of the special permit section 13O, and is replacing it with accessory dwelling unit. He mentioned that he thought both should remain. We can add accessory dwelling unit without eliminating accessory family unit because they are two separate uses. So I just wanted to raise that. That's not my opinion, but I didn't know if.
And so we're going to actually ask the former building commissioner what his
Well,
thought.
that's why I'm bringing it
What
up
his
now.
thought was. See, that's why we dragged you in tonight.
Yeah.
So what's your thought on that, Mike?
So CMR 760 is the regulation set forth by the state, right? And under the definitions, they have the accessory dwelling unit, and it would give an opportunity to have both if somebody ever wanted to have the definition in their use that falls under accessory dwelling unit, and didn't come into what the town council said, then they could do both, if somebody would have that option.
Okay.
It seems
So
that-
is
that
there,
seems
there's
to-
basically, there's no, but there, which the only questions we would have to ask is, there's no harm in leaving it?
There's no harm, no.
Okay, because
There's-
that would be my concern, is
see-
that if the, when they issued this, this ruling from the state, if they said you had to get rid of that, that would be the only
It
question.
would be a different story, yeah. We've been having a lot of topics on this as building officials.
Yeah.
And some of the cities and towns who are creating the bylaws, that's been coming up. And the general consensus is to have both, to give an opportunity to the people who do own these and can have these, an opportunity to go one way or the other.
What's the difference between the two?
This one allows, where it says, want me to read it to you? The self-contained housing unit, inclusive of sleeping, cooking, sanitary facilities on the same lot as a principal dwelling, subject or otherwise applicable dimensional and parking requirements that, A, maintains a separate entrance either directly from the outside or through an entry hall or corridor shared with a principal dwelling sufficient to meet the requirements of the building code for safe egress. B, is not larger in gross floor area than half the gross floor area of the principal dwelling or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. And C, is subject to such additional restrictions as may be imposed by a municipality, including but not limited to additional size restrictions and restrictions of prohibits on short-term rentals, as defined in Section 1 of Chapter 64G, provided, however, that no municipality shall unreasonably restrict the creation or rental of an ADU that is not a short-term rental.
But are we going to have any practical difference in definitions?
We can read what council had.
Well, our current definition for accessory family unit is much more restricted. It's a dwelling within a single-family structure for use by a person or persons related by blood or marriage to the person or persons who are both the legal owners of record. So it's, you would be building
An in-law apartment.
an in-law
Yeah.
apartment. The family unit, and it can only be utilized for
Got it.
a family member, either by blood or by marriage.
Okay.
Whereas an accessory dwelling unit,
Apartment.
you can do the same thing, but that dwelling unit can also be rented as long as it's not short-term rental.
Yeah, okay.
The other option, the other main difference is that to do a accessory family unit, you have to get a special permit. Whereas the ADU is by right.
By
And
right.
it just has a, so and because our accessory family unit is in a residential area, it's only zoned residentially, if you've, from a practical purpose, if you're looking at, do I do it by right and just go for site plan review to the ZBA, or do I go to ZBA for a special permit? Who's gonna choose a special permit? So I think that might be the underlying reason for replacing the family unit with a dwelling unit. I don't know if we want to go back to.
No, what I would say is, because we need to get this in the books. So what I would say is we should send this off as written to the, go ahead.
On use regulation A, number 3, the way this is written, you could rent the unit out for the month of July, but you could not rent it out for the month of June. This should say 30 days, not 31 days.
Let me see that.
Okay. Good point.
I think we've got to check that, because I think that 31 days may be,
I think our bylaws say 30 for short-term rentals.
We should check that statute.
Rent every other month.
Well, I don't know that I think it's based on.
Well,
just the-
here's the thing, we can recommend it to the select board, and we can make a note that they should check the, or you're gonna look it up right now?
I mean, this just
Well, I
doesn't, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let alone February.
If you, obviously, we have to get town council, Liz Lyden
Right.
involved in this, but if you want, you can send the memo to the select board asking them to refer it back to us for a public hearing, and I can say that it's being revised by town council, or like without details, just say the planning board is working on the revisions and town council's
Right, so we should
approval.
have town
and
council.
We can still recommend it to the select board to refer it back to us for the public hearing in April. Because town council also had another question where it refers to site plan approval, and it does say, in most, it does say for the the Board of Appeals does the site plan review and approval, but town council asked if if the planning board wants
Planning
to
board.
be in charge of site plan review
Should
and
be the
approval.
planning board. Should be the planning board.
It should be the planning
Yeah.
board. Okay, because that, when she references in D site plan review, section 13C4, it does say but it does say in that section, approval by the planning board. So that was my confusion. So she said if she references that section, it can be changed to the planning board.
Yeah, so
And that's
the
what you
building
would
inspector
recommend.
can send anybody for anything to the planning board for site plan review.
So, but you want that changed, it should be, so you're fine with that? You want
Yeah.
the planning board to be the site plan approval board for that?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
No, that's what
Yeah.
Camille and I had this.
Yeah.
So what
Camille and I
go-
had this discussion already, go ahead.
so what goes to the zoning board? Does the zoning board get involved with it at all?
Only if they want a in-law apartment.
Under the
Not an
ADU?
ADU, not an ADU. If it's an ADU, then it's by right, the zoning board doesn't get involved, unless they want a setback. You have to meet your setback side and rear. So they may want a variance for a setback.
So just so I understand it, though, so an
It's by
ADU is
right.
permitted by right in
Yeah.
the zoning districts that are residential,
Right.
but they still have to come to the planning board for site plan review and approval regardless?
Well, yes,
Because town council said there has to be a note saying that it's permitted, but you
And I'll
have
tell you
to have
why.
site plan approval.
I'll tell you why. Because you want to have access to emergency vehicles, because they can plop those anywhere. You also want to mitigate drainage, so that when you do construct an ADU.
No, I get that, I
yeah,
understand,
so
but I
the
just want to
planning
make
board
sure
is
that,
the proper venue to send it to, not the zoning board.
right, but even though it says permitted with a P in the table of use regulations, there will be a note that says it's permitted by right, but site plan approval is still required
Yeah.
by the planning board. Got it. I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay,
Right, so I
go ahead.
Just,
Go ahead.
I can tell you under under 64G, Section 1, short-term rental does not have a day definition. On the general practice on leasing is a month is 30 days.
Okay.
So I think that's why they have it shorter than 31 days. They're not looking at it as, you could rent it in August, but not, I think
But if
it's
it
just.
says 31, you can rent it for August. I mean,
Right.
Well,
that's
you
the
can
letter
also-
of the law here.
Yes, but you can also rent it for like mid-June to mid-July, that sort of thing. I mean, it's not so much which months.
What I
it's
would say
just
is,
a
I think,
daily
I like Camille's thing, let's send it to town council, let them hash it
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
My
Oh,
other,
this was from town council. This is what.
No, I know,
They
well,
draft.
we're gonna
We'll ask
ask
that
the
question.
question again on, hey, no August and no month, no, with
Town
31
council will
days.
come to the next
Yes, Liz is scheduled to
Yeah.
come to the
Okay.
April meeting.
But we'll work that out at that time, go
and
ahead.
another question on parking. Parking may not be a tandem space, the parking space of the primary single-family structure. Why?
That was the way it was written from the state, so you gotta go to the state on that. Basically, this was guidance from the state that came out, and we,
But we are free to create our own bylaw. We're just using it as a template.
But it can't be more restrictive.
right.
It would be less restrictive if we weren't saying you can't use a tandem space as your parking space. If we're allowing tandem.
No, I had to think of what you were saying, I remember, it's getting late for me. So, so a tandem space would be two side by side, or to be one after the other?
Or the other, right?
I mean, it'd be a pain in the
Alan, where are
butt.
you reading that? Which section? I just want to...
Parking C2.
Yeah.
So you need
I mean,
clarification.
you know, if we're
of
all
tandem is?
concerned with the impervious area, you're saying,
Yeah.
okay, you have to pay another.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got it.
Fee for-
You know, I mean, just thinking of a devil's advocate, let's say they rented it and we allowed it to be tandem spaces and, you know, the person goes into the hospital, then they can't get their car out. You know, like I said, I'm just thinking of, you know, you're thinking of all the possibilities, I'm thinking of, you know, if they're side by side, then that's not an issue. You know, I'm just thinking out loud, that's all. It's I mean, your point is well taken.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just saying, wasn't it just on the news that a guy wouldn't move his car? They were parking the way that we just said, and he wouldn't move his car, and they had to get police involved with it, and somebody got beat up. It was-
Yeah, I think that's very common with rentals.
Yeah, it was
Again,
a
with
rental.
leasing, that there's no, you can't,
People
The
park on the
spots.
street, block a driveway too, it's, you know.
No, no,
well,
I
that's a
get
public
it.
way, you call the police.
I
You
know,
have-
we don't say no parking in the street because some people block a driveway.
Yeah. I know with most rental facility, it's, you have to have, I mean, we can ask town council why the tandem is.
We can ask, yeah.
I mean, again, the whole point of this is you're putting this little extra piece of property on for a family member or just a little extra income or whatever. It's,
I think
it should
it's,
be less restricted.
well, I think it's, the point is, you maybe, your original thought is to build it for a family, but because it's not restricted to a family member, because now it could be outside rental property, it could be a rental unit, and now you're creating harassment issues if I'm always telling you to move your car.
Or someone says, well, I don't like your parking situation, I'm not gonna rent from you, I'll go rent somewhere else. You like the market solutions for everything, right?
I'm just coming up with trying to understand why they would have, why the state put tandem in there.
Why don't we ask town council on that, because it's coming back to us anyhow.
So what, you want clarification on two, the tandem, you want to know what tandem means?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, he wants to know
Why?
why
And
the
can we
state,
remove
and can we
the-
change it
And are
from,
we free to change it?
yeah,
So why tandem space and can we change it?
right, so they stack the parking. No, and to your point, I mean, if you were renting it and you couldn't get your car out, then you would be, although you have to move all your furniture and everything, that'd be a pain in the butt, so.
Mr. Chairman, just
Go
one thing. I had sent an email to Camille and asked about, other than, pre-existing non-conforming in a zoning district for residential use, like, I'll give you an example, in the IP district near Tractor Supply, they just sold that little single-family pink house over there. They got plenty of room to build an ADU over there, and it's a young kid who bought it. Would that be allowed, to migrate into
Did you
the...
see did that answer your question in her email that's in your packet?
I didn't look.
Because I forwarded your question and that was the response I got. I thought I forwarded it to
Oh.
everybody, but it's in your packet.
It's not in the residential district.
Oops.
so it doesn't apply.
Well, we're not required. We
Right.
could allow it.
That's what I was
Or we could do
asking.
it by,
If we
we
could
could allow
allow
it by special permit.
Would the board be amenable to that? To give other people the opportunity to a pre-existing non-conforming single or two-family dwelling unit in a different zoning district? You have it?
So on the use table, what ends would be, you change it to SPD, the Special Permitting Board, right there.
I think,
I'm looking for that email. Oh, you got
I
it.
think realistically, if we're gonna allow a pre-existing non-conforming residential structure in a commercial or industrial zone, then you'd do it by special permit on all of them. I don't think it would be fair, if you're gonna do that, I wouldn't say, we can do it in IP2, but you can't do it in IP1. You can do it in commercial 1, you can't do it in commercial 2.
Anything that's not a single-family residential zone, you do it by special permit.
Yeah.
But it would have to be single-family Single-family would be the key, the
Right.
starting point. So, single-family, non-conforming, that would
Or
be.
just, yeah, just a single-family home.
Correct, correct, yeah.
So you
that
can,
would
you
be-
can, what it says, you can allow it by special permit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
So we could say that
Yeah.
a single family
thank you.
that is located
And
in a non-residential zone,
zoning district,
it's allowed by special permit.
special permit, yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think to just say no because your house was built before we changed the zoning laws, you're not gonna get this benefit.
right,
We just can say that it's not by right.
yeah. Just want to make,
Special permit with site plan approval.
Yes.
I assume.
Yes.
And so on the use table, it would be SPV where all the ends are for the planning board.
Yes.
So all those ends would be SPV.
Yes. All right. We good? Any other questions? Comments? Nope. All right, so I make a motion that we forward the ADU document to the select board with the notes that we made.
Well, tell them it's under review.
Under review, yeah.
So they can
So they refer it back to us on April 8th.
We can hold a public hearing. on
Right.
it.
Second.
All right. So I make a so I already made the motion. The motion's been made and seconded for the review of this on April 8th after it comes back from the select board. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, great. And I think with that,
But just don't leave, I need you to sign the withdrawal decision.
Yep.
We've got our May meeting scheduled already.
we do, yep. And so notes, spring town meeting is Monday, May 5th, and town elections are Monday, May 12th coming up, so.
That's my birthday.
And with that, I make a motion, unless there's anything else, I make a motion to adjourn.
okay.
All right, motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Good night, everybody.
Oh, it's on the 13th that you have candy for us?